This is cute, but not particularly helpful. You should have been there. You should have burst through the door with that "baby, I'm right here" smile. Then maybe I could potentially have been stopped from putting together this list and littering this entire video full of Taylor Swift puns. There's almost as much variety in these book recommendations as there is in Taylor's albums. And by that I mean some people are going to say this is entirely predictable and other people are going to have their socks blown off. But seriously, stick around because some of these book recommendations might make you feel like a million little shiny stars have just aligned. Can somebody just cut me off and roll the intro, please? And welcome back to another video. Before I get started explaining my behaviour in this video, I would first like to apologise if you can hear any droning noises in the background. It's central heating time here in the UK now because the outside in Scotland kind of feels like being underwater. It's damp, it's wet, and it's freezing freaking cold. And your girl has clothes to get dried. But the central heating and the lights do occasionally make my laptop feel like it's going to spontaneously combust. So until I can figure out a better cooling fan solution for it, you might just hear it struggling on in the background a little titch. As you can tell from the title of this video, I am here today to bring you a recommendation list entirely based on Taylor Swift's albums. This has been an idea that has been in the back of my brain for quite a while because apart from documenting my reading, my channel here also kind of documents my life, my hyperfixations, my joys and sorrows, and all of the things in between. And I think no matter where you fall on the diehard Swiftie, I kind of like her, I can't stand her and never want to hear her music again spectrum, cannot deny that it has been a bumper year of Taylor Swift. 2003 has of course been the year of the Eras tour, and I personally am not sad about it. I've been listening to Taylor since her first album came out. I have always loved her music. That being said, remember how I said we liked opinions on this channel? Maybe you're not a Swiftie, maybe you are one of the people who's absolutely sick of seeing her saturated all over social media. In that case, my heart goes out to you. I feel for you. But while I do like opinions on this channel, particularly the ones that disagree with mine, I would also just say stick around for this list anyway. You might find a random recommendation that works for you. But before we get into the random recommendations based on Taylor Swift albums portion of this video, I would first like to thank today's sponsor, Proven. Proven is the world's most personalised skincare provider, and all of the personalizations to their products are chosen by you and backed up by science. Proven uses a system based on the Skin Genome Project in order to select the best products for your face. It was created by Stanford computer scientist Dr. Amy Yuan, and it asks you personalised questions about your skincare based on 47 individual factors, which is more than any other skincare provider out there. You will get a shipment from Proven which looks like this, filled with your very own skincare formula. And the best thing about it is that that formula changes every single month based on your use. So maybe you are like me, you've been diagnosed with PCOS and you have the weirdest combination skin in the world. I have dry patches, patches of eczema, and oily patches that still get spots like a teenager. And because of PCOS, I also shave places on my face, which gives me extra sensitive patches which need their own personalised care. And that is exactly what Proven provides, but in such an easy, accessible, simplified way. Like all you do is fill in a quiz and your 3-step skincare arrives on your doorstep. You literally don't have to do anything else. Every one of Proven's kits comes with a customised cleanser, a moisturiser with SPF, and of course a night cream. And guys, when I say that I have tried everything to get my skin under control, I mean I have tried everything. Every faddy skincare regime, every dropper, every gel, and nothing has quite worked for me the way that Proven has worked for me. Honestly, I could go on about Proven for such a long time. They're female founded, they are cruelty free, there's no toxins, there's no parabens, there's no formaldehyde. It's pregnancy safe, and it always comes with a little free treat. Which realistically, when everything already feels this bougie, is just an extra hint of luxury that I didn't expect. So if you would also like to try out the luxury that is Proven's skincare, then there is no better time than right now. Because Proven's best deal of the year is here. Get your first 3-step system for only $99 and 3 free gifts. Proven are also giving you a spa headband, a toiletry bag to store all of your wonderful products in, and a free lip balm, which is the thing that is making my lips glossy and dewy right now. Use my code literary99 and my link down in the description box below to try Proven out for yourself. Trust me, your skin will thank you. Alright then partners, it is Swiftie time. I really feel like I've missed a trick not wearing my cowboy hat while I said that. Particularly seeing as Taylor's early albums were as country as it gets. Well, howdy there ma'am. You a 1989 stan or is it Reputation all the way? I look like I'm ready to go to the church hall and go line dancing. Okay, 12 random book recommendations for 12 Taylor Swift albums. Let's go. So let's transport ourselves back to the misty realm of 2006 when Taylor Swift's first album, Taylor Swift, came out. When I tell you that it hurts me to say the misty times of 2006, know that inside my bumhole is cringing. Because as far as I'm concerned, my brain subscribes to the following timeline only. Taylor's first album was all about how to be yourself, how to attempt to make connections with other people when you felt like you didn't know who you were. And of course it was written while Taylor was still in high school, and so it would realistically be ripe for a YA recommendation. But as contemporary YA is not really my jam these days, I kinda sidestepped that box and I went to Duck Feet by Eli Percy. I read Duck Feet in the summer of last year and it has stuck with me since then. It was one of my top 10 books of 2022, and the great thing about me bringing it up again now actually is that lots of people were struggling to get a copy of it last year after I recommended it so strongly, because it turns out that it had actually just gone out of print when I read it. But thankfully the publishers have since seen the light and there has been a new run of Duck Feet published, and it is actually now also available on Kindle. So if you were one of those people last year desperate to get your hands on it, you can now do that. I'm sorry for recommending you a book that was going out of print, but trust me when I say that the wait was worth it. Duck Feet is set between Renfrew and Paisley, which is not far away from where I grew up, and it follows Kirsty Campbell as she goes to the big school, which is what we call it when you leave primary here and you go to high school at 12 years old. And high school is a massive transition for Kirsty. She really struggles with fitting in there, especially because of the environment that Kirsty is growing up in. The working class environment of Scotland is a beautiful place filled with really welcoming, salt of the earth people, and I feel really fortunate to have grown up there, but it did also include so many horrific things in my early childhood, as it did for Kirsty. But apart from the reflection of my own experience and the fact that this book is written in Scots, so if you really want an experience, if you've never read a book written in Scots dialect before, then this is a perfect place to start. The absolute humour with which Kirsty is forced to navigate the circumstances that she finds herself in. Because the one thing that I really took away from growing up in working class Scotland is the ability to volley. My humour, my quick snapbacks, all of that come from a childhood in the trenches. And when I say that reading Kirsty going through these huge, heart-wrenchingly emotional moments in her life and literally just being like, oh well, at least I'm no deed, like at least I didn't die, it made me so emotional. This entire book makes me so emotional, except at the end of Taylor's album I didn't have quite the same reaction as at the end of Duck Feet, where I sat and bawled my eyes out straight for 10 minutes and then decided, both myself and my friend Jill and my other Scottish friends who had read this, that we were just going to deny that the ending had ever happened. So our next album is of course Fearless, which came out in 2008. And Fearless obviously gave us a ton of Taylor classics, but most notably I think Love Story and You Belong With Me, which were of course the huge late high school songs. So while her first self-titled album felt for me more about finding yourself, this one feels to me more about finding your place in relationships, and also about realising for the first time and releasing that idea that you can actually influence how people see you. And the book that this absolutely undeniably brought to mind is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. Now, along with one of the other books on this list, The Nowhere Girls is one of those books which gave me a hangover and put me in a slump, but not because the book was bad or because any part of the book in fact was not chef's kiss, but actually because after the book was finished I had to sit with it. Like, I had to sit with it for a really long while, and even talking about it now is making me a little bit emotional. So The Nowhere Girls is about three girls who all meet and come together mostly because they are social outcasts in their high school. We've got Grace, who is a preacher's daughter, and she has only just moved to this town, and the house that she has moved into has got graffiti on the walls from a girl who used to live there. Then we have Rosina, who has a very distinct thing that she would like to do with her life, but she is caught in that generational trap of working at her family's restaurant. And then finally we've got Erin, who struggles to just exist in any kind of social environment at all, and usually just retreats into science in order to switch off the world. And as those three girls come together at the beginning of this book, Grace kind of unlocks a thing that she didn't expect to set into motion. This is one of the most hard-hitting books that I have ever read. But apart from breaking me open like the decorated Easter egg that I look like, this book is also so well written. I have never read another book where I have so viscerally, so completely gone, yeah, that is a teenager that is talking right now. That sounds like an authentic adolescent voice. And I stand by that despite the fact that this book came out in 2017 and adolescent voices move at the speed of light. I am the crypt keeper. So, skipping cheerfully along to the Speak Now era of 2010, I would like to introduce to you what I like to think of as Taylor's living in the moment phase. Her phase of say the thing now because you don't know if this is going to be the last time that you get a chance to do so. Her moment of everything needs to be glitter because I want it to be. Like, she really started to introduce theatrics into her videos. This was the beginning of the double and triple layered lyrics era. And for this album I have picked the book Two Boys Kissing by David Levithan. Now, I promise that not all of the books on this list are heartbreaking, but like the first two on this list, this one definitely is. This is another book that is actually responsible for me sitting in a little ball and losing my absolute mind. It's about Harry and Craig, both of whom are 17, and they decide to take on a world record event for the longest kiss. I think it's going to take something like 30 odd hours to beat the Guinness World Record for the longest kiss, and this book is their story and the reason that they've chosen to do this, whilst also the story of so many other queer boys. Because this book is alternatively told through Craig and Harry's perspective and through a Greek chorus of men who died or were dying in the age generation. Hearing those lost voices, the voices of people who should still be here were it not for more research, more funding, more public ad campaigns, more actual care and consideration and the valuing of queer lives by governments and health bodies, these men would still be around and would still be enriching our lives. Hearing their stories and the background of these boys who are struggling so hard with their own sexualities, being like, we have been there, you are living the same thing that we lived, we are telling the same story just through different lenses. It's perfect, it's so beautiful, and it's so perfectly in the spirit of say the things that you want to say now. Alright, now we jog on into the red era of 2012. This was the era of Taylor Swift bringing us fashion, whilst also bringing us a really complicated, really intense album about love. And not the good kind of love, but the toxic kind of love. The kind of love that goes through all of the stages until you realise that you need to put it down and walk away because it is tearing you apart kind of love. And I will say that Red and 1989 have always been my albums. They have always been the two places where I have lived. And until Midnight's turned up, they were my very favourite Taylor albums no matter what. Although genuinely I think if you press me, Red still might take the crown for that, especially Taylor's version of Red, because anyway, so for these complicated relationships and these sacred spaces, I have picked a slightly controversial romance, which is interesting for me because I don't really live in the romance realm. Also more on that shortly. The book that I have picked is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, and I have put here the original cover because what in the 90s is this? Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings is a romance, but it's also kind of an anti-romance because it does not promise any kind of happy ending, and it is also filled with absolutely problematic and toxic characters. Because I'm not gonna lie, the main love interest in this, BJ, is somebody who I hold absolutely no love for at all. This relationship has really been billed as Chuck and Blair at their absolute worst, but I think that's doing Chuck a massive disservice. So this one is about Magnolia and BJ. They have been together since they were in their teens, but at some point in the near past, BJ cheated on Magnolia. It absolutely broke her heart, and it wasn't just a heartbreaking event, it was also a society heartbreaking event. Because Magnolia and BJ are in the society gossip magazine. They wear the best fashions, they go to the best clubs, they go to gala openings, all that kind of things. They are very, very privileged. So if that's not your jam, then maybe back away slowly because there's a lot of it, but I kind of quite liked that level of pretension. It really did feel like Gossip Girl, but in London for me. And at the beginning of this book, Magnolia is trying to move on with her life, but also kind of not, because at least 4, maybe 5 nights out of 7 out of a week, she's sleeping over with BJ in her bed. They're not doing anything, but he's next to her, and they never really let each other out of each other's sights. Then BJ does something else, and Magnolia's like, okay, I am done with this crap. She decides to get the paparazzi and her friends and her parents and everybody else, including BJ, off of her back by entering into a fake relationship. And that is the basis for most of this book. This book is an incredibly complicated and incredibly toxic love story. It's very dramatic. But that was one of the things that I loved the most about it, because I do feel like it was kind of an honest portrait of how toxic some relationships can get and how blinkered you can get to them. And I absolutely loved Magnolia. I fell in love with her. I was rooting for her all the way to the end. The end of this in Magnolia is kind of the reason why I don't want to read any other books in the series, because I really liked the place that the first book left off. That being said, if you're not like me and you are a completionist, there are many other long books to go on to after this, because this one is a chunker. Next up, we're landing in the land of 2014 and my other favourite, 1989. I didn't actually realise either, but when I was researching this video, I discovered that 1989 is actually her most awarded album. Although knowing the way that she gets awards, that'll probably be outdated information about now. So 1989 for me is really the album that is about losing yourself, reinventing yourself, losing yourself again, and then finding peace with the fact that you are made of fragments of your past. So for this one, I have picked the book The Traitor Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. Now, this is the only book on this list that I have not actually read yet. It is sitting behind me looking accusingly from my fantasy shelves with the very inferior UK cover. And also the name in the UK, just for the record, is The Traitor, not The Traitor Baru Cormorant, which I don't really understand, but whatever. So The Traitor Baru Cormorant is about Baru, who has known since she was a little girl that her world has not been safe. She has known that her existence and her family's existence and the livelihood of them and their world around them is all on a knife's edge. On a sugary nail, it could go away in a second. And then when she is 7, her world falls off of that cliff edge when soldiers come to take over her home, killing her mother and her 2 fathers and leaving her standing in the ruins of everything that she loved. And what she decides to do is she grows up in the shadow of her colonizer in their world, and she decides to join the Masquerade, which is one of their biggest military operations. Through that organisation, she will learn all of their secrets, and she will slowly dismantle every single person that made the takeover of her home happen, and she will make every single one of them pay. However, her plan runs slightly awry when she is not sent anywhere useful as far as she's concerned, and she is instead sent to a land as a diplomat where she is supposed to quiet the rebels and the thieves and the various miscreants that live there. Until she has done that, she can't get back to her plan because she can't break her cover. The end of the synopsis says, but Baru is a savant in games of power, as reckless in her tactics as she is fixated on her goals. In the calculus of her schemes, all ledgers must be balanced and the price of liberation paid in full. This one is high up there on my list of reads to start 2024 with, and I'm hoping that when I love this book, I will love it as much as I have loved 1989 into perpetuity. Next up, it's time for 2017 and the spicy reputation era, otherwise known as the spicy era of complete lack of care. Zero cares were in fact given. The theme of this one for me is the best revenge is living well. It is rising to the top when absolutely nobody believed in you, and in fact everybody discouraged you. It is deciding to be yourself despite the fact that you being yourself alone in your own box has offended everybody else. And for that, I could not choose any other book, guys, than Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I know you guys have heard me talk about this so much recently, but there is literally no better revenge book that I have ever read than Red Rising. In case you have not been here for all of my 40,000 last videos which have featured this series, Red Rising is about Darrow. He lives under the surface of Mars. They are mining for a very precious substance which is going to be used to terraform the surface of Mars in order to rescue all of the people from a dying Earth, so that they can move over to Mars and like abandon the planet. Darrow's people live in absolute hell. They have food shortages, people are ill. It is backbreaking constant work, but they do believe that they are doing it for the greater good. And then one day a terrible thing happens in Darrow's family, and a very public repercussion happens, and in the process of going a little mad, facing losing everything that he has ever cared about, he is taken to the surface of Mars by a mysterious person who shows him that the surface has been terraformed for generations. That actually the Reds, Darrow's people who are under the surface of Mars, are literally only slaves who are keeping this entire empire running. This series is so incredibly filled with pacts and treaties that get made and then broken, with backstabbing and side switching. You never entirely know who you can trust, even though you desperately wish that you can trust some of your favourite people, that they are on your side, and some of them that were on the other side will come to be on your side by the end of this trilogy. And this first book filled with anger and rage and desperation and like big swings and big misses just absolutely sold me on the rest of this series. I know I've talked a lot about it recently, guys. I know you're probably really sick of hearing about it, but honestly, this has turned into like my top series of 2023 and one of my favourite series of all time, so I doubt I'm going to stop talking about it anytime soon. Or not Saws, as it happens, because Taylor wouldn't be Saws. Reputation is certainly not a Saws album. Next up, we have Lover from 2019. Lover is the outlier of all of Taylor Swift's albums, and actually the one that took me the longest to listen to, because there were just a lot of songs on it that initially didn't jive for me, and it's taken a long time for them to grow on me. Lover for me is of course the Sunshine Candy Floss album that came after Reputation, but for me it's kind of the album that says love isn't supposed to hurt. Not just love in the sense of romantic love, but also love in the sense of like family and friends. It's not supposed to hurt this much, it's not supposed to be this hard. You can be joyful, it's supposed to look like this. And for that book I couldn't pick anything other than The Other Bennett Sister by Janice Hadlow. The Other Bennett Sister is of course a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but only kind of loosely, in that the first very small portion of the book is a retelling of the events of Pride and Prejudice from Mary Bennett's point of view. Mary is of course the studious, very God-fearing, very prim, very drab and grey sister that everybody dismisses, everybody thinks is overreacting and is ruining everybody's fun just by existing. And in Pride and Prejudice she's done massively dirty by her sisters, particularly by Lydia and Kitty, who do a lot of like overt bullying of her during that book, and her mother, who is hideous to her. And seeing all of that from Mary's point of view at the start of this book is heartbreaking, and watching her come out of that and realise that she has other options and she's allowed to think other things that haven't been handed to her is just It hurt me so much. This book hurt me so much, and I just want Janice Hadlow to write another book. Like, I need one right now, but there is none. I can't believe how much I fell for this book after it sat on my shelves unread for so many months. But I read it now and I'm in love with it, so it's fine, right? And then of course that brings us to 2020 and to Folklore, otherwise known as the album that birthed an entirely new set of Swifties. This is the album that has more songs that have their own storylines, and then obviously those storylines all tie in together throughout the track listing. For me, this album is the idea of unpicking your past through retelling it, and again kind of romanticizing your life in that way where you can make yourself a safe space at the end of it all. And I don't think I could have chosen any other book to represent that other than The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Now, hear me out, because I know that you guys were going to be expecting some sort of fairy tale retelling for this, something like floaty and soft and ethereal that maybe included the fae, but that's not what this album is about for me. Like, the floaty indie vibes are not the thing that really capture me with this album. The thing that captures me with this album is the way in which you find yourself intertwined with everything around you, and nowhere else do I think is that as fully represented as in The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. So The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is about the crew of the Wayfarer. They are a very small tunneling ship. In this world, tunnels are a punch in space through which there's a wormhole so that you can travel very fast from one destination to another. That means that in order to punch that hole, they have to go all the way to that place first. So they are very much on a long haul journey anytime they take a job. And at the beginning of this book, we are introduced to Rosemary Harper. She is a person who is trying to escape her life. She has literally posted herself through space to get away from the people that she was surrounded by, and she takes a job as an admin clerk on the Wayfarer with this very motley crew. A crew that are pieced together through people who have left their own lives, who have been fractured from their own societies, who in some cases don't even have a world to go back to anymore, and they are this tiny little found family. And although this book definitely has a plot, it definitely has the space opera stuff that goes on in the background, this book isn't about that. It is about finding a family. It's about listening to other people's stories and not just hearing the words that they're saying, but thinking about them as complex beings that have come from another place and feel things that are completely different from you, are completely literally alien to you, but how you can still find commonality there. You can still find empathy, you can still find love there. The first time that I read this, it was almost like I had reread it for the 50th time, because it felt so comforting to me to walk into this world. I love some of the characters in this book so much that I am just so gutted that this is kind of the only book with this set of characters, because all of the books in this series are companion novels really. Although this is another one of those series that I haven't finished, because if I finish it there's going to be no more new books left in it ever, and I know that it's done, but I just can't. I can't. It hurts me preciouses. Next up, also in 2020, we have Evermore, otherwise known as the other half of the book to Folklore as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's a lot of theories about this, that Folklore is more like spring summery and this one is more autumn wintry, that there's a change in tone between the two albums and this one is darker and more sort of melancholy and brooding. But for me, Evermore really was kind of the album that was subtitled Let Go the Things That Don't Serve You Anymore. For me, Evermore was like the investigating why you are the way you are and then deciding to actively do something about that. And so for this one, I have picked Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is a book that I have recommended to almost everybody in my life at some point. If you are a friend of mine and you are a reader and you have not read this book, then you have had it pushed at you. Rebecca is about an unnamed narrator. She is a young woman who is a travelling companion to a very wealthy and unpleasant lady. She has no other way to make her way in the world. This is what she's got. So she attends lunches and dinners and is like a chaperone to this woman. And while on a glittering vacation that she really doesn't get to enjoy all that much, she meets the brooding, dark, handsome presence of Maxim de Winter. And she falls real hard, real fast. She has never really had the attentions of anybody except for Maxim in her life. So they get married and he takes his new bride back to Manderley, which is this stunning, huge country estate. But there is a spectre hanging over Manderley, and there are things about Maxim that our unnamed narrator does not know. And one of the things she does not know is anything about Rebecca de Winter, who is Maxim's not that long ago dead wife. And then very slowly, as she tries desperately to break out of Rebecca's shadow, things keep pulling her back in until she discovers that there's a lot more to Rebecca and to Rebecca's death than she ever thought there was. This is a book that just gets under your skin. There's foreboding from the first page. There's an ominous feeling from the very first sentence. You know that this book is not going to end happily, but you just desperately keep rooting for it to do so from the very first page. Like from the opening paragraph, you're like, please don't let this happen, please let everything be okay. But it isn't. It's not okay. This one is filled with characters that I've never been able to get out of my brain. Characters who are so well drawn that literally people writing in the Gothic genre have been taking inspiration from them since this novel was published. It is so incredibly good. So incredibly good that even though I have an ugly, horrible edition of this that I got for university and it has a coffee stain on it from somebody bumping into me in the street while I was reading it, I have still got that copy because reading that and the original reading experience of it means so much to me. And then finally we have got Midnights from 2022. Now of course that there have been other albums in between. There have been Taylor's versions of albums. Do not let me fool you into thinking that Taylor's version of Red did not absolutely change my life and my consciousness, because it did. But I'm not going to do anything with Taylor's versions in here. We're just going to finish up on Midnights, because Midnights is my new Red. It's my second favourite album. Midnights for me is an album about the things that you don't say out loud. Like, you know when you have a moment of, oh, I said the quiet part out loud there and I shouldn't have? Midnights is that album. It's all about insecurities, grief, shame. It's all about the things that you have under the surface, and then it's about owning those things and not letting them ruin your entire life and not letting them rule you and take you over. And for that I have picked The Black Feathers by Rebecca Netley. Now, did I only just finish this book? Yes. Just ate this book and it changed my psyche for a little while. So The Black Feathers is about Annie. She has a horrible secret inside of her that she cannot tell anybody, but her family knows, and it has kind of ruined any prospects that she has in society. She can't go out in society because if she does, she's going to have to tell this secret, and she can't tell this secret, so she's stuck with her parents. When her parents find a very opportune match for her, Edward kind of walks in from out of a storybook. He also has a wife who had died very recently, and he needs an heir for his massive Yorkshire estate. And that is the person that Annie becomes. She is grateful for Edward because she just wants to get away from the life that she has right now. But the life that she's walking into looks nothing like what she expected, and when she gets there she discovers that Edward's sister also lives on the estate, and Edward's sister is a bit of an odd duck. She considers herself to be a medium, she is also a taxidermist, and she is just a little bit weird, and she tells Annie very quickly that she should watch out for black feathers lying about the place because they are the place where spectres, where spirits have visited. But when Annie, with the encouragement of Edward, goes to one of Izzy's seances to make sure it doesn't get out of control, something happens there, something comes through to them that Annie was not expecting, and it literally derails everybody's life forever. This book feels to me like a mixture between the ominous atmosphere of like that ghostly, very large, very creepy estate that you get in The Little Stranger, but with the grandeur of Thornfield from Jane Eyre, and with the doubts that are sewn into the back of Jane's mind in Jane Eyre about Mr. Thornfield, coupled with the atmosphere and the characters that are not on the side of good from Rebecca. There is nothing else that I can tell you about this book without spoiling it. Honestly, if you want to know more about it, you need to watch the vlog, because I read it in real time and was just like mind blown constantly. This book includes some themes that I would never ever have considered picking up if they had actually been in the synopsis. It's so cleverly marketed because it is marketed as this gothic, ghostly, and there is ghosts in here. This is very much also got one foot in horror. It's marketed as that kind of like full haunted house package of a book, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more, again, about the human condition and about the guilt and the things that we hold inside that will steadily destroy us if we don't accept them and let them out. Honestly, Rebecca Netley is fast becoming one of my favourite authors. So that is it, guys. I only just beat the light. That has been an incredibly fast drop of daylight. There is nothing left outside of my window. I'm gonna have to crack out the studio lights. We are in that time of the year. But I hope that you, like me, have loved this video and the fun that I have had with it enough to have stuck with me as the light left us. Please tell me down in the comments below if you have found any new books that you think that you're gonna pick up after this video, and also what you would have picked for your favourite Taylor Swift album down in the comments below. If you have got this far through the video, then please leave me a horse emoji down below for the true cowgirl that Taylor once was. And don't forget, if you would like to check out Proven and get a custom skincare regime just for you, you can use my code literary99 and my link down in the description below to get your first delivery for only £99 with 3 free gifts. If you are new here and you would like to stick around and find out what I really do think of the Traitor Brew Cormorant at the start of next year, then please hit that subscribe button down below. And if you are a returning subscriber, I see you guys, I love you guys, and you have enjoyed this little trip down Swiftie lane, then please remember to hit that like button down below. It really does help my channel, and I will speak to you soon, guys. Bye!